Part 9. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 82. Chapter 81. Downstairs is arguing with Xiaoba Wang is Mr. Zhang Liud, the teacher of Yefu. He was disdainful to watch these dramas that reflect the life of the locals. However, this drama is really hot. Every day I listen to people, so I take time to watch. Who knew this met the Xiaoba Wang? During the dispute, seeing Zhang Liud going to suffer, how could a roar above his head, a young boy in Xingyi fell from the sky. Ye Kong couldn't help taking the stairs anymore, and jumped out of the window directly. His figure was spinning in a chic midair, unloading his strength. Then he lifted his placket and wanted to give some color to the two soldiers. Who knew that the two soldiers ran fast and hid behind Xiaoba Wang? And those onlookers also knew Ye Kong a lot, and all muttered, "This is a great show, the two gangsters are going to be unlucky." Another said, "No wonder the old man is so embarrassed, dare to be the master of Master 8. Another said, "Still spread out, Master 8 is famous for beating people. Who is going to throw my teacher out?" Ye Kong ignored the arguments and hummed to the bully. In fact, the Kangnan continent is usually called Mr., but Ye Kong can't call it, "My husband really BT." The bully frowned, "Who are you?" Ye Kong didn't answer, and asked, "Who are you?" "Who am I?" Xiaoba Wang snorted. He was very arrogant. When he came to this small place in Kyoto, he was even more arrogant. He used his nostril to face Ye Kong and said, "Who am I? I have already said that now, there is never a habit of repeating it in Ben." Xiaoba Wang is really arrogant, but the arrogant thing is generally only more arrogant, not the most arrogant. "Since you don't say the name, then do it." Ye Kong was so arrogant that he didn't want to inquire about the other party at all, and he was ready to slap people. Slow, the little bully watched Ye Kong step forward, and suddenly thought of someone. Generally, there are no real kung fu guys under this hand, and they really encounter things. They are the first to soften. Although Xiaoba Wang was arrogant, he looked at the other party and asked to fight without asking, and his heart was completely lost. He took 2 steps back, turned his head to look at the two soldiers, and the soldiers hurriedly compacted, whispering, "He is the of plague, Master Ye Family 8. The little tyrant looked calm, and immediately thought of his father's command, "Son, you can mess with anyone in Nandu City. Don't mess with one person, that person is, God of Plague, Master Ye Family." Xiaoba Wang heard that this was the plague god, and he felt a little bit guilty. He didn't come to the southern capital for a long time. He hasn't heard much about this plague god. With his father's admonition, he couldn't help it. Although the bully guilty, he can't lose face. He followed the smooth dad and learned a little bit about doing things, so he said humbly, "Beijing is Hukagan, the son of Xianxia Hu Shaoran, but Ye Kong." Ye Kong sneered, "Boy, just now that there is no repeating habit, aren't you very dragging, you drag again." It turned out to be Huyanai, Hukagan, good name, talented. What makes people puzzled is that Ye Kong turned against his style and laughed, and asked, "God brother, how is your father?" Hukagan froze, not understanding why the boy suddenly laughed, and greeted his father. "My father, well," Hukagan said that this kid was not that great. "This is called a brother or a brother. Does it mean that I know who I am and want to stick to me?" Ye Kong said again, "Well, how are you, mother?" "All right." Hukagan didn't want to answer. But then there was a joke of laughter behind him. Let him feel back, the boy was clearly saying, "Do you good," he answered stupidly. "Ye Kong, you must not deceive people too much." Hukagan was furious. The boy was so abominable that he even greeted his mother-in-law. "What about bullying you?" Ye Kong Ben didn't want to mess with the city guard who just arrived. After all, the guy was quite knowledgeable, but this kid was too much, and he dared to bully his most respected teacher in public, and then said, "This place is covered by me, I will let you see it." you can see it, and if I do nt let you see it, you have to roll. Too much, embarrassing Laozi in front of everyone. Hu Kaigan never encountered such arrogance in Beijing, but his arrogance naturally had his arrogance. Ye Kong was arrogant, and he was a little soft. This is a shit. Andu is so much, I don't want to watch it. Hu Kaigan wanted to slip away. It's his usual style to leave without doing it. I haven't finished it yet. Ye Kong waved his hand, and the dragon and tiger helper brother who watched the scene rushed out, surrounded Hu Kaigan and the two soldiers. Why? Hu Kaigan shouted guilty. Ye Kong smiled, did I let you see? But I don't want to see it now. That won't work, I'll show you, you'll have to watch. Where I let you sit, you'll have to sit. Now, please sit down to the last row. Ye Kong finished, waved his hand to spread, and said, of course, you can leave now, but the consequences, I'm not responsible. Hate. Actually admitting to persuasion, walking is not enough, and forcing himself to watch a show, isn't Laozi even losing his basic personal freedom? Hu Kaigan's face was so sturdy that he wanted to leave without regard to everything at the moment, but he was dragged by the two soldiers like a fate. Don't let me stay and watch now. If I go out, I will be beaten to death. You're ruthless. Hu Kaigan weighed the gains and losses, regardless of the harsh laughter around him, angrily headed for the last row. It's not polite to you, the teacher who bullied Laozi. I do nt know what to respect and teach. Ye Kong watched him go to the back row, so he pulled Zhang Wei to the door upstairs, and left a sentence at the end, boy, bring a message to your father, let him buy more pig brains to fill your brains. Bully and domineering, don't look at whose territory. Leaving Hu Kaigan's face pale and annoyed alone, Ye Kong took Zhang Wei upstairs to watch a show, and no one dared to sit on the empty stage. Ye Kong, why do you come forward and offend Master Hu again? Zhang Wei complained. Sir, this kind of deceitfulness is good enough to fear him. If you are weak, he will deceive you even more. It doesn't help to justify them, just let them look at the color. Zhang Wei shook his head and walked on the stairs. You use evil to control evil. Ye Kong laughed, sir, you said it all when you said it. Do you want to use love to affect this kind of evil? Only worse than them, they will converge. I heard that warriors have a spirit of bright swords. In the face of the opponent, it is necessary to take the initiative to show his sword so that he knows the sharpness and retreats when he is difficult. Bright sword spirit. Zhang Wei paused, nodded silently, and continued to walk up. This is just an episode. The Brotherhood of Dragon Tigers soon began, and the audience upstairs and downstairs also temporarily forgot about the confrontation just now, and began to watch the theater intently. One exception is Ye Kong, who hasn't seen anything on earth. This kind of humming, babbling opera is what he hates watching the most. The plot is slow. Ye Kong sings a word for a long time, but Ye Kong hears some headaches, but this is suitable for people in the Kangnan continent. If Ye Kong rehearses, most people think the pace is fast. Being bored, I saw Feng Xiniang next to the table suddenly stood up, went out and walked in again after a while, quietly pressed against Ye Kong's ears and said, Master 8, someone is looking outside. Ye Kong didn't know who was looking for himself, and the heart thought Bachan had the meaning of Feng Si Niang. Looking at the enchanting Feng Si Niang in front of her, she couldn't help praising her. She likes beautiful women on the earth, but she has never encountered such a thing. Okay, returning to the Kangnan continent is a fulfillment of a wish. At this time, the voice of Huang Quan's ancestor in his head sounded, I have nothing to do, and it's boring, so hurry up and find a girl for my ancestor. Feng Xiniang, who is looking for me? Ye Kong followed Feng Xiniang to the door of a room. Ye Kong didn't know the other person's mind, and Feng Xiniang didn't dare to take the initiative. She sighed, opened the door, and still smiled, Master, Master, the person looking for you is waiting inside. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 83. Chapter 82 is too fast. There was someone waiting for Yekong, but it was not an important person, it was the girl named Xiaoying. Since half a year ago, Yekong Xiang didn't arrive, Feng Xiniang left the girl to Yekong, but in this half year, Yekong was busy practicing and had no time to come, and forgot the girl early. Master 8, you are finally here, Xiaoying greeted enthusiastically. Thanks to Master 8, she has always kept King Gren's body, and even did not let her go with wine, just waiting for Yekong. It's a little warbler. Yekong nodded, went into the inner room, and sat at the small table. Master 8 is so conscienceless, he forgot Xiaoying. Xiaoying posted enthusiastically. Oh, how can you forget, this is not coming. Feng Xiniang looked so hot that she couldn't push away the young warbler and went up to serve Yekong herself, but after all, the young warbler was as good as Yekong and she was still clean. Then 8 masters have a good talk with Xiaoying. Sister, I will go out first. Feng Xiniang swallowed sour gas, yinging a blessing, and went out with a smile. Oh, Boss Feng, you're guarding the door, just in case they. Yekong didn't say clearly, but Feng Xiniang knew that he was afraid that the two women would bring him to cover him. Master 8, you can rest assured that it will take an hour and a half for a play, you play with fun. Ha! Feng Xiniang covered her mouth and went out with a smile. An hour and a half, that is 3 hours, no matter how strong a man, it is enough to play. But unfortunately, it is not Yekong who plays, but someone else. How is this girl? Yekong asked. No, it's a long way off. Thinking back then, my ancestor was a Lianaying woman. That face was called Shuiling, and that figure was called a logo. Then. The hero does not mention the braveness of the year. Most of Huang Quan's ancestors are not good guys, he likes to put his thoughts on his mouth. Xiaoying is pretty good, it's the flower head of Zhangchun Tower. If it doesn't work. Yekong stood up and wanted to leave. Huang Quan's ancestor was anxious. Hey, don't go. Although it's not as good as a Shadow Clan girl, this woman can be done. Who told my ancestor to panic? Yes, knowing that you've got a bargain and sell well. Yekong grinned, and said, today makes you wish, and tomorrow I am going to make another batch of Pegadan, and then we find a place to practice magic. Huang Quan's ancestors scolded, you savvy kid, a kid like you, the kid won't grow up. You don't have to worry about it, do you agree or not? Yekong is not savvy. The key is that if he doesn't take Huang Quan's ancestor now, when he asks him to practice alchemy, what must he ask? Yes, yes, my ancestor, what evil did I make, and I have to be coerced into doing this? Huang Quan's ancestor agreed. Yekong was easy to handle, and a sleeping charm was buttoned in his hand, and he was ready to attack Xiaoying. This kind of charm is specially used by Fuyi to treat insomnia, and the effect is good. A charm is affixed, and he will not wake up after 3 or 5 hours without sleep. Yekong is ready to let the little warbler fall asleep, so that he can release the old ancestor, let him scream for joy. However, the ancestor was unwilling. Boy, slow down, ancestor, I don't like to start with women who are corpses. Do you know that there are some things that are coordinated to get more fun, so I want her to wake up. Isn't it? Yekong said, do you want her to be awake? Aren't you afraid she will tell your secrets? Be careful of the monk's idea of hitting your Yuanying soul. The soul of the monk Yuanying is exactly the things that are badly cultivated by monks or devotees. If they are turned into a ghost and put into a special instrument, the power is very powerful, especially the ancestors of Huang Quan have not recovered. All those evil spirits who are in the Dan period can come to catch him. What are you afraid of? I have my own way to keep her secret. Do you kill it before you play it? This won't work. Yekong is not a ruthless person. He can be as ruthless as enemies can sweep autumn leaves, but he can't do anything for innocent people. Especially this little warbler can be regarded as hard-working and waiting for himself. People are looking forward to the night and looking forward to you, but they will be killed by you. This is not something Yekong can do. No, I didn't say to kill her. Do you forget that I can perform a soul searching? I can delete her memory of the day, although the exhibition on the mortal made her mentally stunned for a while, but it will not die. Since Huang Quan's ancestor said so, Yekong nodded and agreed. Now the key is the little warbler, and I don't know if she is willing to serve Huang Quan's ancestor. However, this did not cost her too much time. A woman like Xiaoying had long been used to being arranged. Although she was still a bit dissatisfied, she heard that the client was a very senior fairy, and she immediately became happy. To attain immortality, these are not only men longing for, but women are also thinking about it. The little warbler is just an ordinary dusty woman, but she has an illusion of fate. If she is comfortable to serve the fairy, and she also leads her to cultivate into a fairy, then how beautiful it is. Xiaoying agreed immediately, and then Huang Quan's ancestors appeared lazily. Although he had a beard on his face, his body looked like a baby. It wasn't ugly, it was a little weird. If he didn't look at his face, he would still feel cute. Xiaoying looked at Huang Quan's ancestor and couldn't help covering her mouth and giggling. If she didn't know that this was a fairy, she would reach out and pinch. It's equivalent to a little giggle. Yekong is very direct, squinting and asked, "Hey, can you do it? Would you like me to help?" "It doesn't matter, it depends on our brotherhood and affection, and Jinjin's. How can I help you unconditionally?" Huang Quan's ancestor would certainly not agree, but not only that, but also kicked Yekong out. "The reason is simple, you won't let me see, I won't let you see." Yekong only tossed down 2 spirit stones with Huangquan's ancestor's own aura, and then left, muttering in his mouth, "Oh, pity, why are you so few auras? A woman needs to replenish her energy." Huang Quan's ancestor was going to vomit blood depressively. "Didn't all of your aura get sucked by you? After all, it's easy to recover points by yourself, and help you refining armor. Why didn't you say that you should return half of what you have refined?" However, Huang Quan's ancestors will not say that this is not only invalid, but it will cause everyone to have a gap, which no one wants to see. "Spit it out for me, take it back for me." Although Yekong often hums these 2 words, he can't spit out other people's food. As soon as Yekong was gone, Huang Quan's ancestor took the little girl Ying to the bed and lowered the curtain. It was unknown how it was done. "Come out," Feng Shinamei, who stood at the door, widened her eyes with long eyelashes blinking. Her eyes were full of questions. At first she was still a little hesitant. This boy, being happy inside, let the older sister keep the door outside. It is too much. "Do you know that the older sister hasn't been happy for a long time? Is she depressed?" But before turning her mind, she watched Yekong pull out the door. "This is too fast. Isn't this kid? I was caught by myself last time, but it's too fast today. This time is too short, and my pants are too late." Did he finally think of his elder sister? However, she immediately rejected this self-passionate thought. What was doubtful was that the little girl that Mo Feiying said something insignificant and annoyed Master 8. Well, come out. Yekong was still wondering what Huang Quan's ancestors would do, and he closed the door with his backhand, his expression unhappy or sad. Feng Chen woman is to wait for the guests to be happy. If the guests are unhappy, it is negligence. Feng Xiniang was angry for a while. Why did this little warbler not know what to do? She didn't let her pick up in the past 6 months. Doesn't she know that Master 8 is the benefactor of Tibet Chunlu? This little warbler, I have to punish her. Feng Xiniang frowned, and wanted to push the door. She had to be punished in front of Master 8, and she had to be relieved. "Hey, what are you doing?" Ye Kong quickly grabbed Feng Xiniang's Bibihao wrist. Master 8, don't plead with Yingying, these girls have spoiled me. I have to make her understand today that some guests can't offend. Feng Xiniang pushed the door with her other hand. What are you talking about? Xiaoying is very good. Ye Kong grabbed Feng Xiniang's two hands and said with a bitter smile. He guessed Feng Xiniang's thoughts, but he couldn't tell her clearly. Master 8, don't be too kind, these girls just can't spoil them. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 84. Chapter 83 Going Wrong. You just stay at the door. No one is allowed to put it in. There is no sound in it and you are not allowed to go in. Call me if there is no solution, Ye Kong commanded. Master 8, where are you going? The brothers of the Lu family thought that they really wanted to talk about something important. They came out to know that they would be the goalkeeper. Where am I going? Don't ask, Ye Kong was furious, and the two guys took care of me now. No, you just said you had a problem to call you, we all don't know where you are, where do you call you? Lu Jun said with a look of grievance. Oh, then, go to the boss's room and call me, Ye Kong said after leaving. The two brothers of the Lu family spit their tongues at each other. These 8 masters are really terrific. They don't look for a girl, but they look for a boss. They are not in the same class as themselves. With a look and a gesture, the mother accidentally stunned a human soul. If it wasn't for the boss who is not picking up customers now, it would be more popular than other girls. The brothers of the Lu family did not dare to say much, and did not dare to guess what story was in the door. They had to move 2 benches and sit at the door, keeping the door at ease. Feng Xiniang's room is at the other end of the 2nd floor, but Ye Kong came to this side, but found a problem. There are 2 doors on each side of the aisle, which are the ends of the corridor. Which side is it? The weather is cold and there are no people on the aisle. Ye Kong is also clever, leaning on the doors on both sides and listening. If there is no sound in Feng Xiniang's room, if it is another girl, there may be guests. The sound of the shaker is definitely not Feng Xiniang's room. This made Ye Kong misunderstood. I felt that the right is not Feng Xiniang's room, the left must be, and the left room can see the stage downstairs, lying on the couch to watch the theater. This Feng Xiniang also really enjoyed. This is it. Ye Kong leaned on the right door, listened, and moved in without moving. This dude. There was a handsome and extremely handsome man sitting inside. The dude was out. I felt wrong. The boy was too young. He came to Tibet Chunlu when he was just a few years old. This little brother, is there something wrong? The handsome man asked. Ye Kong went in to know why there was no sound here, and he dared to sit in the chair alone to watch the show. Oh, sorry, I went the wrong way. Ye Kong blushed and quickly flinched out. When I went out, I thought that the man was really handsome, let alone seeing jealousy. Even if a woman saw such handsome dudes, she would be jealous. The right is not right, that's the left. Ye Kong learns well this time, knocks on the door, and hears Feng Xiniang asking, who? Then he pushed in. How come now? Feng Xiniang hadn't done such a thing for a few years, and her face was as red as a little girl. You just say the one inside, and you don't say right or left, you just went wrong. Oh, you got messed up at the time, how could you think about it? You don't know, the kid was really handsome just now, that look, the lips are red and white, and I almost acted like a girl. It's ridiculous for a man to be like this. Feng Xiniang took him to the couch and laughed. Who said he was looking for a girl? Can't watch the show? Maybe it's a woman. Many big family women want to watch the show, but they are afraid of being found. Only women are dressed as men. After listening to Feng Xiniang saying this, Ye Kong thought about it and thought it was true. The handsome man was a bit like a woman, and he was alone in the room. He didn't call the girl at all. Unfortunately, I didn't pay attention to whether she had a throat festival. Other things can be faked, but this thing can't be faked. Looking at Yekong in contemplation, Feng Xiniang was unwilling, and shouted, "What are you doing, fancy others?" Huh. Yekong laughed, "It's just a little weird. Just now I felt a little spiritual fluctuation, forget it, I didn't understand what I told you." "What is the spiritual power fluctuation?" Feng Xiniang asked. "Say you don't understand." "Ah, don't, people's mouths, Yekong shot the boss in the room, but there was movement in the room opposite. The handsome man looked at the show alone, pinched a few nuts, but his curly eyebrows frowned. "I'm not mistaken, I am a cultivator, I only practice the third layer of gas. I did not expect there is even an immortalist in this southern capital." "I do know which descendant?" "Yekong has just stepped into the gate of immortal cultivation, so he is not used to seeing people, and he opens his eyes to see if the other party is an immortal practitioner, what level of immortal cultivation is, but others are different, especially those who go out to chase, no matter who they see. The first one is to open your eyes and see the strength of each other." The handsome guy murmured secretly, guessing what Xian family is near the southern capital, but think about it, the nearest Wangjia is also far away from here, and will not let the low-level Xian of his own family come to Nandu. The handsome guy thought again, no, the Xian family closest to the southern capital is not Wangjia, it is a barbarian monk. Although the young man was very clear-eyed, he could not infer that he was not a barbarian monk. The handsome guy had a flash of murder in his eyes, raised his hand, a snow-white wrist stuck out of his sleeve, and a bracelet full of runes flashed on his wrist. A flat plate with golden light appeared in the hands. If other immortal practitioners are here, they will be surprised. This is actually a superb magic weapon. You must know that for each higher level of the magic weapon, there will be a lot of scarcity and its power is several times stronger. Naturally, you don't need to say more. Generally, casual repair, or low-level cultivators of various families, it is good to have a few good products. If there is a good one, some people will be jealous. Only the disciples who have mastered the Chinese martial arts will be awarded by the peri, and the top-grade instruments will only be obtained by the favored disciples in the martial arts. After all, the success rate of refining the top-grade instruments is much smaller. The requirements for materials are also very high. As for the best quality instruments, there are even fewer. The success rate of this gadget is extremely low, and the materials are also very demanding. It also requires the ancestors of the Yuanying period to make them with infant fire. But even if the materials are rare and Yuanying's ancestors are willing to practice, that will not guarantee success. Taking a step back, even if it is successful, it is not necessarily the best tool. Just like Huan Quan's ancestor made Yekong refining the inkwell armor, he let him spend 9 cattle and 2 tigers, and slowly patience, but in the end it was just a top-grade magic weapon. So this handsome guy raises his hand is a superb magic weapon, which will make many monks desperately to grab it. More importantly, in a society where 90% of monks use storage bags, a storage bracelet will also become a killer for others. Reasons to win. Of course, not all monks dare to kill and win treasures. Since this handsome guy can take out these things, his attack power cannot be underestimated, and behind him, it is possible to stand a huge and terrifying Xianxian school, so this it is not everyone who dares to offend. But such people dare to offend others easily. Right now, this rich man who is so handsome that makes him indistinguishable from a man or a woman is ready to go to the little boy who just went the wrong way. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 85. Chapter 84. You are waiting. If the handsome guy came early and saw Yekong and Hu Yugan confronting each other, maybe he would know Yekong's identity, and nothing later would happen. But now he came a little late. He only came in after the opening of the play, so it was not clear who Ecchi was, but he doubted that he was a barbarian monk. If it is a barbarian monk, it has something to do with this experience. The so-called exercise generally refers to the disciples of the Daoist school or the family. After the foundation is built, they leave the mountain gate, go out and walk around, practice and sharpen. The purpose of the training is to let these children who are only cultivating their own knowledge, go out to see, to be familiar with the world, and to increase some practical experience. In fact, the experience is like graduating from college. You have to use what you have learned, participate in an internship, and submit a graduation thesis, then it is okay. The graduation thesis of this handsome man is really related to the barbarians. Of course, after all, the training is not a dissertation, and it is not just a pen stroke. The result of the barrage is to kill a few barbarians. Therefore, Ecchi, a suspected monk, was taken as a target. Since he met the young monk, the handsome man didn't want to go to the theater. He took out the octagonal gold platter, converged his spirit, opened the door, and looked around. There was no one in the aisle. Room entrance. If this handsome man can come out and practice, it must be above the foundation, so as long as he converges his spiritual power, be careful, Ecchi, the third layer of gas refining, can never be found. What's more, when Ye was in a jovial mood, how could anyone think that someone wanted to harm himself? The handsome man outside heard a blush and a thick neck, which really made Feng Xiniang guess. This is a woman, a big girl. Although the beautiful female nun is much higher than Ecchi, she knows little about some aspects, and she feels flustered. Huh! This idiot must be a shameless barbarian monk. Otherwise, how could there be so many women who are older than him? The beautiful nun was firmer. But strangely, instead of rushing to kill her, she erected an octagonal gold plate and pointed the thin edge of the blade against the gap in the wooden door. The golden light flashed away, the latch was cut in half immediately, and the wooden door opened without wind. I saw her lift the storage bracelet, and a blue silk account flew out of it. The transparent account was very small and only one person could enter. If you think this green silk tent is to block mosquitoes, then you are totally wrong. This thing is not for mosquitoes. Its function is to cover the monk. Not only can you hide your body, but even the aura fluctuations. This is a good thing, but it is the best choice for going out at home, peeping, and watching people XX. Although the green silk tent has no defensive function and cannot kill people, the special function of concealing spiritual power is enough to make this account a Chinese magic weapon. It can be seen that this beautiful female practitioner is a disciple who is at the core of the Xianxian school and cannot be any more. Otherwise, how can there be so many magical tools? Just pick a Chinese-style instrument, it still has special functions. Of course, Ecchi hasn't noticed that the danger has come. People's blue silk tents are much worse than his invisibility. In the past, Ecchi was wearing an invisibility and looking at others' secrets openly. Today, he is being treated by a woman looked openly at his secret. Facts have proved an eternal truth: killers, people always kill them. Look at women, women always look at them. The beautiful female Xiu usually only practice meditation, but I have never seen this before. The beautiful female nuns hated all the male nuns in the world. Of course, the young man in front of her hated her even more. Now it is not important whether this kid is a barbarian monk. You are so young, you are so familiar with this shameless act. I don't know how many women will be harmed in the future. He must not be left. The beautiful woman was sentenced to death by Ecchi, and she did not want to look any further. She immediately picked up her weapon and was ready to fight. Ecchi's realm is too different, and he is completely unaware. If this female nun shoots, he will die. But at this time, Feng Xiniang suddenly said a word, temporarily saved Ecchi's life. Of course, she also saved herself. Master 8, knowing that your sister is good, hurry up and comfort her. Feng Xiniang was as charming as she was, begging. Master 8, the beautiful girl frowned, and felt that the title was familiar. Looking at the complete Yuppa group, the beautiful female Xiu understand everything. Although Yekong and Feng Xiniang made her an enlightenment teacher, the student was not grateful. Dog male dog female. Go to hell. The beautiful female Xiu stared, the octagonal sand table with the best artifice in her hand, injecting spiritual power, the sand table emitted a golden light. As long as the blue silk tent is recovered and an octagonal sand table is released, Yekong and Feng Xiniang will die on the spot. But at this moment, a powerful consciousness swept over, quickly locking the beautiful nun. Oh my God! It's you in infancy, the beautiful female Xiu turned pale in an instant. Although this blue silk tent can hide body shape and spiritual power, there are still people who can see through it. It is a monk higher than her 2 realms. She is currently building a base, that is to say, as long as she can be found, it must be an old monster during the Yuanying period. Huang Quan's ancestors didn't find it at first. After all, they were a little far away, and they didn't use their mental energy. Besides, there was a blue silk account hidden, but when the beautiful female nun used the best weapon, the keen ancestor of Huang Quan found it immediately. It was too late to rush past, so he immediately oppressed the beautiful nun with a strong sense of consciousness, and at the same time connected Yekong with his soul. Boy, there is a foundation period near your couch to kill you. Yekong immediately became tense, raised a fireball and threw it. But the beautiful nun had fled, put away the blue silk tent, jumped on the double octagonal sandbox, and flew out of the window. Yekong saw only one back, and yelled, "Little humble, leave." Immediately followed by jumping out of the bed, ran to the window and cursed, your mother, sneak attack on your mother? Dead BT dead lady. I remember you, I will see you kill you once in the future." The beautiful female nun flew very fast, but she could hear it clearly, and she was blushed with a few words from Yekong. I cursed in my heart, never seen such an immortal, full of swear words, and just ransacking the rogue. It is so hateful that if I have a chance in the future, I must kill him in order to report today's shame. However, when thinking of the rogue, the beautiful nun suddenly remembered who the 8 masters were. She had heard of the 8 masters as soon as she arrived in the southern capital. That was the head of the rogue in the local area, and she also performed a drama to praise the rogue. This is the kid. Knowing Yekong's identity, the beautiful nun also knew that she was mistaken. Ye family and the barbarian had deep hatred. How could his 8th master be a barbarian monk? But today I can't swallow that breath. The rogue surnamed Ye, you wait. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 86. Chapter 85 in the Palace. Master 8, you are, Feng Xiniang didn't see anything at all, and then opened her eyes after listening to Yekong's scolding, but who knows turned around and saw a face on the floor in front of the bed, a big hole in the basin. Downstairs, a little girl was looking up. Little magpie. What are you looking at? Feng Xiniang scolded the little girl. Master 8, what's wrong? Feng Xiniang asked again, confused. The guy who was half male and no girl just wanted to attack me, and I was run away. Yekong didn't want to talk to her too much. A conscienceless thief. Seeing Yekong had no interest, Feng Xiniang was no longer entangled. Old man, are you all done? What was the way that attacked me just now? Why did she attack me? Yekong used Lingzi to communicate with Huang Quan's old ancestors. It's over. Huang Quan's ancestor didn't continue his thoughts when he encountered this kind of thing. He had to prevent the other party from returning. He deleted the memory of Xiaoying today using Soul Search Dafa, and answered, I don't know what is the origin of this monk, but she must be a favored disciple of the martial arts, and most people do not have the best magical instruments. Necromancer. Yekong was startled and said, Why don't you get rid of her? Necromancer, I don't have any necromancer, how much is it worth? Kill her? My ancestor, I want spiritual power but no spiritual power, weapons, don't you want me to fight with her shirtless? Pig brain, you don't know to eat more pig brain to supplement the brain, Huan Quan Lao Zio scolded again. Ye Kong laughed, hey, ancestor, what you said was plagiarized me. Go, Huan Quan cursed and said, even if you can kill her, you can't take it. This is in the city. How many people saw it? She must be a favored disciple in the Daoist school. If she died in public our hands, aren't you afraid of her revenge? Ye Kong nodded thoughtfully, this is also true. Well, come to my side. Huan Quan's ancestor put down the little oriole who had gone to sleep. She would wake up 2 hours later, but she would forget everything between her and Huan Quan's ancestor. Pushing the door open, it looked like Huan Quan's ancestor was sitting at the small table, and he looked very satisfied. Hey, ancestor, I'm very happy. How on earth do you play? Ye Kong asked with a small sword. I'll play as you please, Huan Quan's ancestor replied indifferently, then narrowed down into the small sword weapon. Ye Kong said again, if you meet that woman in a remote place next time, it's good. I haven't seen the top level magic weapon, maybe there are other good things in her storage bag. Storage bag? People use storage bracelets. Something you haven't seen, scolded Huan Quan. Wow, that's even better. She must have a lot of treasures. Wow, she will be rich if you do it. Why were you when I was still in the prime of the UN infant? I don't even have a body now. If I didn't scare her with my powerful consciousness, it would be very difficult for me to kill her with her top magic weapon, Huan Quan snorted. You can't kill her? What is her realm? Ye Kong asked in surprise. Midterm Foundation. That's far from you. Why are you so stupid? Huan Quan cursed again. Since she has top-level instruments and special hidden instruments, she must also have escape or life-saving things. Your boy wants to die, my ancestors. Think about it for a few years. After Huan Quan's ancestors finished scolding, he suddenly laughed again. Hey, boy, I seem to hear that someone hates such things as killing and winning treasures. I also said that I would never do this kind of thing. Today I saw the top magic weapon. Did you change your mind? Ye Kong blushed, whoever said he changed the rules, I would definitely not do the killing and the treasure hunting. People do nt commit me, I do nt offend. But if she commits me first, I can just defend and grab her weapon. Huan Quan's ancestor chuckled twice and stretched a lazy waist. My ancestor is sleepy, go to sleep first. If you want to defend properly, you still have to learn the controls first. That is of course. In order for me to save my life, I have decided to leave the city tomorrow, find a quiet place, and master all kinds of spells first. Ye Kong hung the small sword back to his waist, went to the bed and looked at the little warbler, and then closed the door and walked back to the box. At this point, the Brotherhood of Dragon Tigers has already sung in half and is performing a fierce fighting drama. Unlike the Earth's movie dramas, the fighting dramas here are all real swords and guns, so it's hard for the actors to get hurt. Color. But the audience loves to watch, but the fierce action is indeed more real than in the Earth movie. Ye Kong was also worried that Xiao Hong and Lu Qin would doubt it, but now it seems that the worry is unnecessary. Both girls were attracted by the play, and they did not notice that Ye Kong had returned. As for Zhang Weiyuan, it's even more tense. It seems that he has completely put himself in the play, and he is happy and sad with the protagonist. Ye Kong gave Feng Xiniang the surplus food stored in her body, so she calmed down and began to sit down and go to the theater. It was more than half an hour later, and the play finally came to an end. Not only was this epic thrilling, but it was also an emotional dialogue with brothers. It was the most exciting part. Although this sensational method could not keep up with Korean dramas, it was enough to flicker a large audience. Xiaohong and Lu Qin wiped their tears while watching. What makes Yekong incomprehensible is that Zhang Wuyud, who has a face like an iron plate, usually cries the most. In the old eyes, the tears flow smoothly, just like a fountain. I don't think this old boy is so rich in affection. Not brother, better than brother, not brother, better than brother. Not only was Zhang Wuyud's emotions rich, but he also got confused in this play. After the show ended, he went downstairs with tears in his eyes and kept mumbling about the lines in these two plays. He didn't know what to draw. Well, Xiaokan Xiaohong, you all go to the sedan chair, sir, sit in my sedan chair, and I will follow. Lu Qin and Xiaohong were still unwilling to compete for Yekong to sit on their sedan chair, but Yekong stared at them, and they stopped. Yekong was about to leave. Behind Feng Xiniang came up and said that some clues were found, so Yekong asked the sedan to send Lu Qin and others back first, and she followed Feng Xiniang back to Zhangchun Tower. Little thief, I want to leave without saying hello to my sister. Feng Xiniang now doesn't even call Master 8, but Yekong can't help it. The little thief is a little thief. Who told you to play with her? Oh, didn't I see you? Yekong smiled and asked, what did you find? Following Feng Xiniang back to the Tibetan Chunlu, there was a thin turtle slave who was waiting there and saw Yekong coming in, and quickly knelt down and saluted, good Master 8. Let's get up. Yekong held up the turtle slave, and then asked him what the situation was, what the is that half male and no female guy? Master 8, that woman is a guard in the palace of Endu. Oh? How do you know? The ghost slave continued. Yekong understood. It turned out that the woman came after the opening of the play, but when she came, the tickets were sold out. Although there is no seat downstairs, but the box upstairs is empty, it is not that the box is not required, but it is Feng Xiniang who is afraid to come to the guests suddenly, so each play will deliberately leave a box out just in case one. Of course this woman wanted a box, and the turtle slave replied. The last box was reserved for the VIP. The guy dressed as a man smiled and said that I was also a VIP. Then she handed me a gold medal, but it was real gold, Jin Chankan, and heavy. The turtle slave drooled at the thought of the gold brand, but when he remembered the words above, he was honest. Then he said, I took a look at the sign and saw 4 big characters on the sign. It was unobstructed. I said that it was okay for anyone to carve these 4 characters on gold. It was too boring. You have a piece of gold. It's okay to go anywhere? The woman laughed. To say that the woman laughed really well. I've been a turtle slave in Tibet Chunlu for so many years. I have never seen such a beautiful woman, just like a fairy. In men's clothing. Yekong angered, Shaoka, talk about business. Oh, yes, the turtle slave also felt disoriented, but the woman smiled really well. The turtle slave thought about it and said, the woman later said, look over it. So I turned over the gold medal, and it was also 4 words on the other side. I was shocked at first sight, and the gold medal almost came close. Get out. What's the reverse? Rujeo is here, said the turtle slave in Yekong's ears. Ordinary people are not like immortals. They are still awed by the emperor. After all, the buddy sitting on the dragon chair has with a large number of troops, the people's lives and deaths can be arbitrarily determined. How can they not be afraid? In the palace? What are you doing here in the southern capital? Yekong muttered. The turtle slave also said, the woman also said that she was a guard in the palace. It was not a distinguished guest. I nodded quickly, so she took her to the box upstairs. After the turtle slave spoke, he couldn't help but say, the women in the palace are just different. They are like fairies. The emperor is with such a beautiful guard every day. That's so cool. Yekong laughed, God delusion, don't you mind. The turtle slave did not dare to say more, and quickly quit. As soon as the turtle slave left, Yekong secretly murmured that this woman's realm is not low, it is already in the middle of building a base, and there are so many high-end instruments, how could it be a palace guard? The palace guard is unattainable to ordinary people, but it is not worth mentioning to the cultivators. Without cultivators, they will be restrained by mortal emperors, and there will be no female construction in the base period to ruin the emperor. From this point of view, the identity of this woman is very easy to guess. Yekong knows that there is support from the Xianxian sect behind the royal family in each country. This female Xiu must be the Xianxian sect behind Angguo, so she has the palace token. Facilitate work in the private sector. Knowing this woman's identity, Yekong certainly wouldn't come to look for her obscurity. He hadn't been arrogant to the point where he would fight against others. But why did she do it to herself? Yekong speculated that it was the Emperor Angguo who wanted to attack the Ye family and sent this woman to plot himself. If Yekong knew that this woman had attacked him as a barbarian monk, he would jump up with anger. Would I look pretty? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 87. Chapter 86. Back to Yefa from Zhangchun Tower, the sky was getting dark. Yekong made up his mind to practice spells first, and with life-saving skills, he could prevent the crisis that might come. Back in Fuku, I heard that Mr. has invited you. Why did Zhang Liud look so complete after watching the show? It seems that there is an answer, otherwise Zhang Liud would not invite Yekong to sit in his seat. The weather was cold and it was dark early. The young and old sat down around the stove, and Zhang Liud poured wine to Yekong and laughed. Is it strange that I'm out of order? I'm coming. Yekong took the wine glass and said lightly, it must be Mr. S association today. Zhang Liud nodded, the sister-in-law can teach you. As soon as I see you, you know that you are not in the pool. It will have a great day. Today, the brothers of the Lu family said that the play is your idea. I have no doubt at all. You have no idea what you think. Yekong smiled and didn't open his mouth. His heart said, when your old man sometimes flickers, when you see me, you also hate that I haven't walked straight, and I'm full of swear words. Yekong didn't break it. He heard Zhang Liud talk about the past. To the east of Angguo, there is a country whose territory is no smaller than that of Angguo. The Zhang Liud family is a large family with a long history in the country. The Zhang family is more than the current Ye family. There are thousands of grandchildren, and there are tens of thousands in the family. There are more children and grandchildren in the family, and the chance of appearing spiritual roots is also greater. Zhang Liud's 9 brothers are a lucky one. His spiritual roots are still very good. This is why Zhang Liud knows a lot about the cultivation of the immortal world. This younger brother of Zhang Liud is called Zhang Jud. This guy is a dual attribute psychic root. Because of his good qualifications, he was accepted as a child by the martial arts school's Xianxian school Yunfagate. At that time, the family was extremely happy. When they came out, they were still very qualified. After being protected by the immortals, the Zhang family would enjoy hundreds of years of prosperity. This 9 virtues is indeed outstanding in spirit roots. It lived up to expectations. It took only 10 years to successfully build the foundation. He also won the reuse of Yunfaman. Yekong heard a sigh in his heart that they had built a foundation successfully in 10 years. He had only reached the 3rd floor in more than 3 years. If it was not the ancestor of Huang Quan's ancestors, even the 3rd floor could not be reached. You need to know that the more time it takes, the longer it will take to improve your level, and you will not know if you can build a foundation for 20 years. My Zhang family is also regarded as the famous family of the Wu kingdom. Now there are immortals, and for a time it is even more prosperous and prosperous. Zhang Liud looked out the window, as if recalling the glory of the year. A violent night wind blew through the gap in the window, making Zhang Luo shudder. He shook his head and said, "Everyone thought that Jidi would bring hundreds of years of prosperity to the Zhang family. Who knows that it is because of him, but it has brought disaster to the Zhang family." "Why," Yakonki said, "is it that your 9 brothers have offended the senior monks? But since he is the core disciple of Yunfamin, Yunfamin naturally wants to protect him and at the same time keep your Zhang family safe. Who dares to destroy your family?" Zhang Luo took a sip of wine and said something that leaves Yakong unexpected. "It was Yunfamin who destroyed my family." Oh, Yakong was a little strange. Since Yunfamin valued Zhangjid so much, why did he destroy the Zhangjiamen gate? Even if Zhangjid had offended the elders in the door, Zhangjid would be punished at most, so why not even one door be destroyed? The Yunfa gate is a great faction of the Wu kingdom and the Zhang family is a great family of the Wu state. It should be a good relationship. How can there be such a big hatred? Hearing Zhang Luo's words, he knew that his brother Zhangjid was highly regarded by the door. After the foundation was built, he was established as the successor of the next head. Therefore, Zhangjid could access many secrets in the door, and even the treasure house was kept by him. Zhangjid manages the treasure house, and he is well organized, in which items are recorded in and out, and he is also honest, and he does not steal personally. Everyone felt that others were good, clean under their hands, and clean with 2 sleeves. Even the elder Yuan Ying, who was closed in the door, trusted him very much, so the elder Yuan Ying gave his private library to Zhangjid, and he retired in peace. Is Zhangjid really good? It turns out that he is not of good character, but of bad character. He managed the treasure house for more than 10 years, and it was because he didn't see anything in the treasure house. The ancestral treasure of this ancestor is much richer than the treasure house of the martial arts. Various instruments, spirits, and superb materials have made Zhangjid look embarrassed. This greed in his heart can't be stopped. He finally shot. Already. In Yuan Ying's ancestor's private storehouse, the most valuable thing is the planting of a 9th fruit tree. The 9th fruit that was planted on it is valuable. I heard that eating one can make people feel the 9th reincarnation in the short term. The cultivation of the state of mind is very effective, and it is a must-eat for monk Yuanying who successfully enters the deification period. However, the fruit on this tree is difficult, and it has yielded a fruit for hundreds of years. The ancestor of the Yuanying ancestor in Yunfamin has not been willing to eat before he has reached the level of Yuanying's great consummation. Fortunately, it is okay to not pick the fruit, it will not wither for tens or hundreds of years. Yuanying's ancestors reassured him to hand it over to Zhangjid. There was also a reason that Zhangjid had just entered the late period of the foundation construction and was far away from the of transformation. He had no use to eat it. Yuanying's ancestors have underestimated people's greed. Think about those who are corrupt and bribery because of lack of money and urgent use. It can be seen that lack of money does not have much to do with greed or corruption. It does not work, it has nothing to do with stealing it. I can't use it, can't I take it out for something I can use. Zhangjid's heart was lively, and his economic concept was very strong, so he stole the fruit. But you stole it. You have to leave the tree to people, right? Zhangjid was deficient, stole the fruit, and killed the tree. Why? When the time comes to explain, they say that the tree is dead, and the corpses are destroyed. But the tree was killed, Zhangjid was still afraid. If the ancestor of Yuanying came out to ask, when you are going to die, why don't you tell me? Or ask, this tree hasn't died for thousands of years, why did you die just after giving it to you? The more Zhangjid thought, the more he felt wrong, he simply kept doing it, and went back home. As soon as Zhangjid fled, things were revealed in advance. Yuanying's ancestors hurried out of the gate. The thunder was angry, and they immediately surrounded Zhang's family. Speaking of Yunfamin, Zhangjid is quite authentic. After all, a monk with a different spiritual root is very difficult to find. In the future, if he forms a Yuanying, he will still have a lot of help in the door. So someone came to tell you that Zhangjud was thinking of you as a first offender. You were confused for a while. Well, you will be punished for 20 years for destroying a tree. There is a premise for such a light punishment, and the ninth fruit and the contents of the private treasury should be returned first. Of course, if you are obsessed, don't blame us for being ruthless. The Zhang family will have to be buried together. When it comes to this matter, you have to stop. You don't consider it for yourself, you also have to take care of your husband, mother, brother, and nephew, right? Zhangjud answered quickly. Okay, But I hid something, my family took you hostage, and I'll go back. However, Zhang Wuid was still not assured. He had to go with Zhangjud. Zhang Wuid was afraid that the boy would change his mind regardless of his family. So Zhangjud took his brother away, and when he got to the place, he really hid Zhu Shizhou there and took it back to save his family. No one had expected that this nine virtues was desperate. He did not intend to save the fruit because the fruit was already bought. The buyer promised to ensure that he entered the Yuan infant period in 100 years. I don't know if the buyer is a master monk. He reached the infancy of 100 years. This temptation to Zhangjud was too irresistible. He is only in the late foundation period. He crossed the period of dendrites and entered the infancy of a century. It's fast. Although he is a rare alien spirit root, it's just that he practiced a little faster before Jidan. After it has become Danish, it is hard to say. Many alien spirits stay in the early days of Jidan and cannot be broken until they die. The appeal is too strong. In contrast, the lives of family members seem to be less important. Anyway, mortals have a limited lifespan, even if no one kills them, that is, 100 years of life, die early, so that we can concentrate on training, and later killing the treasure is not afraid of threatening the family. Ren Zhangwuid knelt on his knees and begged hard and begged, and the truth was exhausted, but Zhangjud was blinded by lard, left a sentence, and left without looking back. Rest assured, I will avenge you. As soon as Zhangjud was gone, the Zhang family was naturally succulent, and more than 2,000 mouths were up and down the door, and they were killed clean. The monk Yuan has great power. As long as there is Zhang family blood, even a little, they are killed. Even Zhong the servants killed a lot. Zhang Wuid did not die. It was because of the courtship of the Wu Kingdom royals. Zhang Wuid was known as the great Confucianist of Wu Kingdom, and was also respected by the officials and people of Wu Kingdom. Everyone pleaded for Zhang Wuid. He was left in the wild by Zhangjud and returned. It was also delayed. The ancestor of the Yuanying infant killed more than 2,000 people and relieved a lot of hatred. After Yekong heard it, his doubts were resolved. No wonder Zhang Wuid began to disapprove of the practice of immortality, because his personal experience made him think that the immortal practitioners were selfish to the extreme. Originally, a good brother who had not cultivated immortality had become an animal. He was afraid Yekong would become such a person. Another, why Zhang Wuid sees his brothers cry in tears when watching the movie is because he thinks of his 9 brothers. They are not brothers better than brothers. He is a biological brother who destroys humanity. Sir, I will avenge you. Yekong also said something similar to Zhangjud, but the meaning was different. Zhang Wuid nodded and said, actually, I don't hate Yunfaman. What I hate most is Zhangjud's beast. The reason why I still stand alone now is to see how he died like a bereavement man. Oh, Yekong nodded. If he was dealing with Yunfaman alone, he was afraid that there would be no chance of success, but he could deal with Zhangjud. Sir, how many years has this happened? It's been more than 10 years. Oh, sir, I must avenge you. Zhangjud was in the late stage of the foundation, and he had great magical power to help him. I am afraid that Jindan has already settled early. Yekong has a third layer of gas refining. Can he really get revenge? Zhang Weid was very skeptical about this and wiped her tears and sighed, I said this to you, not to ask you to help my husband to avenge me, but I really watched the show and didn't vomit, please don't be reckless. I know, I won't touch eggs with stones. Ye Kongli secretly resolved that this kind of scum would one day kill him. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 88. Chapter 87. After eating at Zhangwuyud, Ye Kong did not rush back to his small courtyard, but went to the back garden again. I wanted to pick the fruit of the bran grain tree, but I only remembered after walking halfway. It is winter. How can there be a tree? What about flowering? Ye Kong was depressed for a long time. I knew that I had picked more in the storage bag. Now I want to pick it up. There is no place to pick it. I want to ask if there is any substitute for Huan Quan's ancestors, but the ancestors are playing happily today, their physical strength is overdrawn, and they can't wake up. Ye Kong hadn't lost his heart, and ran to the back garden again, and saw with his own eyes that the bran grain tree was clean, and then he lost his heart. What surprised Ye Kong was that, on such a cold night, there were still family members and girls-in-law dating, hiding in a rocky rock cave in the leeward, and he was half-pantsing his pants, and was really active. In the dark rocky cave, you can see the faint white rhythmic movements, with the woman humming in the throat. Ye Kong didn't want to peek, but felt that the man's back was familiar, and he noticed that it turned out to be the centurion of the ancestor Lu Changqing. If other people are alright, but Lu Changqing is the leader of the soldiers, how can you take the lead to violate the rules? Even if you agree with a girl, do NT stay here? This place is too hidden. This is what leaves Ye Kong to see. If others see you, you re miserable. Yes, military regulations are strict, which is enough to cut your head. Cough, Ye Kong coughed outside. The two inside were obviously frightened, and they didn't dare to move. When Ye Kong called Lu Changqing's name again, the guy quickly learned that he put on his pants. Bringing a girl-in-law and kneeling down to Ye Kong when he came out. Ye family's military regulations are very strict. It is a capital crime to engage in such a thing with the girl-in-law in Ye's inner courtyard. Even the girl-in-law must be killed by a board. Lu Changqing knew that he was terrified and scared to death. He knelt and gave Ye Kong a constant ho. Ye Kong naturally wouldn't punish Lu Changqing. After asking another question, it turned out that Lu Changqing and the girl-in-law had already seen each other for a long time, and the two had a relationship with each other slowly, and finally had a relationship. Normally Lu Changqing didn't dare to be so bold, but the situation at the border was getting more and more tense. Lu Changqing received Ye Weihun's order to lead the team back to the camp, and this was about to go. On the occasion of the separation, the two came out at night and talked about it. Live up to the real guy. Before leaving, it's extenuating, but Ye Kong asked again, why do NTU two give her a redemption, and set up a home in the southern capital? Lu Changqing sighed, Xiaowan is the maid in MRS9's room. She is clever and hard-working, and MRS9 has never been willing to let go. I also asked, but MRS9 would not allow it. That Xiaowan was also clever and hurriedly yelled at Ye Kong, please Master 8, please be our master. Well, I'll talk about it for you tomorrow. Ye Kong nodded and agreed. Lu Changqing wanted to ask Ye Kong for help in the morning, but he couldn't say. This time he was promised by Ye Kong. He is also very grateful at the moment. He said, Master, you are my reborn parent. Well, don't make all this nonsense, Lao Tzu is not short of cattle and horses. Ye Kong admired Lu Changqing's kick, and threw away 100 silver road. Tomorrow Xiaowan, go to the city to find a house. It's considered as home. Ye Kong left after speaking, but Lu Changqing held silver for a few more heads, and secretly said in his heart, if the 8th master is in need, Lu Changqing will definitely report death. Ye Kong returned home. Lu Qin was talking with Chen Juniang. He went in to say hello, and returned to his house. Xiao Hong was waiting. Today, she must calm down Xiao Hong. After returning to the house, I didn't rush to do anything. I said something first. When Ye Kong said that he hadn't picked the fruit of the bran grain tree, Xiao Hong giggled, and pulled Ye Kong to a small storeroom behind him. Wow, you have prepared so much for me? I finally know what it means to be a good helper. Ye Kong looked at the pile of bran grain fruits piled on the ground. Kiss. Oh, Master 8. Xiao Hong blushed and said, in the autumn, these fruits are ripe, so we pick more, just in case the master wants to use it, even if it's not used, throwing it is. I never thought, it really works. Well, prepare early, prepare well, and do a good job. Ye Kong collected dozens of bran tree fruits into storage bags, and noticed that Xiao Hong did a good job, not a bad one. If these bran grains are refined into elixir, they will not be hungry for years. Say, what kind of reward? Ye Kong said, holding on to Xiao Hong's soft waist. Reward? Xiao Hong didn't think about it, said for a moment, slave was afraid that the young master would use it. She never thought about reward. Ye Kong laughed, then returned to the room. And reward? Xiao Hong understood what Ye Kong meant, and she was ashamed. Master 8, you are really necrotic. The punishment should be that, and the reward should be that. I'm going out of town tomorrow, and I'm going to retreat outside the city for a few months. Ye Kong frowned. In fact, his thoughts on Lu Qin were very complicated. Xiao Hong wanted to keep her secret. As for Feng Si Niang, it's just fun. But for Lu Qin, he feels that everyone is young, so don't worry too much, and give Lu Qin more opportunities. After all, he is a monk. Now he feels a long time in retreat for half a year, and it will be even longer in the future. If Lu Qin had endured loneliness for a long time since he was a teenager, Ye Kong felt a bit cruel, marrying a husband, and not seeing him a few times in his life. What is the difference between this and being alive? Let's talk tomorrow. No words overnight. In the early morning of the next day, I heard the voice of Lu Qin practicing outside. In the past 6 months, her shadow martial art skills have improved, and the sound of the sword breaking the wind is like the screaming wind, and the color is endless. In fact, people are really unfair. Some people sleep beautifully until sunrise, but they can live forever. And some people practice Ya Sanfu and Fu Sanjiu in winter, and they can practice a secular master. The world is always unfair. This spiritual route is insurmountable for anyone. Although the barbaric method can be used without spiritual roots, it must be inspiring. It is too cruel, and it is difficult to enter this lifelong practice. In the base period of the building, countless killings were made in vain, and in the end it was just a period of refining guess. This is why Ye Kong will not allow Lu Qin to practice the barbarian's methods. Is there any way to do this without the spiritual roots I see in it? Ye Kong was lying on the couch. Xiao Hong had already gone. Although Ye Kong wanted to do morning exercises, Xiao Hong was afraid that she would be ashamed of being heard by the good sisters, but she refused. No, Huang Quan's ancestor didn't say much, and 2 words rejected Ye Kong. Is there any way to make people without spiritual roots have spiritual roots? Ye Kong didn't give up. Huang Quan's ancestor did not rush to answer this time, but after a while, he still gave the answer that disappointed Ye Kong. Yes, but it is not. Ye Kong raised interest. Under the narration of Huang Quan's ancestor, he only knew that this was just a legend. A long, long time ago, there was an Arab story, an Alibaba story. Just a joke, the legend is this. In a very long time ago, there was a monk of the Shadow clan who developed an anti-celestial elixir that can be easily washed and meditated so that ordinary people can also have spiritual roots. It is said that this medicine is very popular, but many people return empty-handed. The reason is that the blind medicine in this elixir is very rare. This medicinal material called Yuan Lingua was extinct in the days when Huang Quan's ancestors lived. It is also said that this thing was only accidentally brought by the monks in the last sector. When the monk from the upper world came down, it would have to break through the cracks in the space. Not everyone can do it, so there is almost no such thing. So this legend was quickly forgotten. What if there is nothing in this world? Of course, Yekong can also wait for himself to fly, then go to the fairyland to get great magical power, and then open the crack in the space and send it to Luchin. However, the premise is that Yekong really has such a big fork, another key Luchin can live to that day. It seems that both of these premises are impossible to achieve, so Huang Quan's ancestor said, yes, it means no. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 89. Chapter 88. Ziokan, this martial art can't be delayed, and the charm can't be dropped. Yekong took Luchin into his house. Paper amulets and spirit amulets are different. You do not need to infuse aura when painting, and mortals can also make and use them. Of course, there is no problem in using Luchin, but letting her draw is much more depressed. Because she is too weak in Reiki perception, and the deformed Chinese is too abstract for her, her success rate of drawing symbols is very low, so low that it can be ignored. So she drew no strength in drawing. She often draws 180 pictures without success. Finally, it's easy to set amulet to achieve a higher success rate. Then look at hemostatic, analgesic, incognito. Oh my god, you have to practice from scratch. Forget it, I am not this one. Brother Yekong, you drew a lot before. Anyway, I just saved it. Luchin was discouraged. But Yekong can't make her think that, others can't keep up with herself. What if you have run out for a long time and you run out of runes? Martial arts can kill the enemy, but this charm can save lives. Brother Yekong, draw a rune again. Luchin frowned, showing more or less. Of course I have to paint. I will not be at home in the future. You draw at least 2 hours a day. Yekong felt that she could not rely on her consciousness alone, and said, when I go out, let Mr. Zhang urge you. Luchin's pretty face was about to cry. Zhang Wu's face was more expressive to Ecchi. To other people, the door was so ugly, and he was reprimanded, so the children of Ye's family, all of them were afraid of him, and Luchin naturally didn't want to face the door. I'll draw by myself. I promise to draw 2 full hours every day. Luchin, like a naughty student, began bargaining. No, Yekong wasn't moved by her plea. He had been a student and knew that without pressure, he could hardly stick to it by himself. Why is this amulet so hard? It doesn't take much effort or use your brain. It is much more comfortable than martial arts. You can treat people later, why not? Yekong said bitterly, helping Lu put the notepaper on the piano and hand in a brush. But the success rate is too low. I can't draw one that can be used for 2 hours. Luchin frowned, and took a writing brush, pursed his lips, and started drawing. The success rate was practiced. When I used to paint, wasn't it the same as you? Didn't you also succeed? Now, Yekong began to blow the air again. When he practiced, it was a 10th success. The rate, if it is also like Luchin, may have given up early. Of course, these Lucan didn't know, nodded, Brother Yekong, I really admire your patience. Now that I have half the success rate, how many rune papers do you have to draw? Yekong said bluntly, that's right. You didn't look at my right hand, my arms were thicker than the left. Ah, right. Let me see. Yekong is pure nonsense. Of course, she can't let her watch and yell, what's so good, draw. However, Yekong's bragging paintings made Luchin worry again. Brother Yekong, if I have thick arms and thin arms, isn't it ugly? It's a freak. Yekong fainted, can a problem be blown up? However, it is not possible to blow out the cows and take them back. It is only to continue to brag and use one cow to cover the other. Know why I said let you draw 2 hours? That's because, based on my successful experience, 2 hours just don't make your arms thicker, and even if your arms become thicker, I can do it for you. Ugh. Wow, the cows have been crying by you. Is there any way you can make the leg in my middle thicker? Huan Quan ancestor did not know when he woke up, and he said lively. Yes, you can shave one with radish. Huan Quan's ancestor was depressed. Why not use radishes? Ye Kong laughed. It's been a long time, and the water has evaporated, so why do NTU become radishes? Then you have to ask me to cut them again. That still doesn't bother you. Huan Quan's ancestor was stimulated by his poison, and he kept silent. Brother Ye Kong, what do you think of my painting? Lu Qin painted quickly, but it was obviously Zhang Fufu. Well, it's good to draw, but it's useless. When you draw, you have to be completely focused and wholehearted. When you are painting, you have to be together and you can't stop. Ye Kong's success rate is really high now. Fu succeeded. Brother Ye Kong, you're so good, I want to make more efforts under Ye Kong's preaching and teaching. Lu Qin seriously drew again. Here comes, MRS9 invited, the reception hall of the inner court is waiting. Ye Kong was a little strange. She hadn't found her yet, but she first found herself. What the was going on? Why meet yourself in the lobby where guests are received? How could Ren Yekan guess? I couldn't guess. It turned out that it wasn't MRS Ju who was looking for him, but Hu Cheng was here, and came with an overlord's son to apologize. In fact, Hu Chengxiao wanted to come last night, but it was because his son's ideological work didn't work out. I was afraid that if the boy brought anything, what the boy would say would be counterproductive. In fact, although Hu Kagan was arrogant, but after the government officials, he knew that some people could not be provoked, or he would not know how to die if he fell into one's hands one day. In the morning, Hu Chengxiao came to do ideological work again, and Hu Kagan smiled bitterly. Dad, if I offend Ye Harem, I can take Jing to the door and plead guilty, but, that's just a young master of the Ye family. Why are you? Hu Chengxiao shook his head and sighed, son, you are wrong. If you offend Ye Harem, I will not force you to apologize. After all, you have not taken advantage, and he will not deal with you. Such a small person cares. Yeah, not only did I not take advantage, but I also lost money from the boss. When there were so many people, my face was lost, and I was like this. I still want to apologize to him. This is too bullying, Hu Kagan said very persuasively. But Ye Kong is not the same. You know how the last Chengxiao died? Hu Chengxiao intensified his tone. When I took office, I didn't mean to have a relationship with Grandma Ye, who was so excited that they died. Xiaoman didn't know this news, but Hu Kagan still heard about it. It looks like this, but if I tell you, both of them have offended Ye family's eighth. The day before, Chen Qingfang's servants provoked Ye Kong in Zhangchunlu, and the younger grandma's son had a fight with the kid that day, and then at night what happened to you? Do you have any ideas? Hu Chengxiao Sun Sun Xing said temptingly. But Hu Kagan was still stunned. That doesn't mean anything, it's all trivial matters. Then the kid doesn't need to kill people, right? Confused. This shows that he is cruel and ruthless, and can retaliate and kill someone for a little thing. Hu Chengxiao patted the table and revealed some news. The servants in that house fell asleep somehow, and the eighth master, it just so happens that people can sleep. Is there such a skill? Hu Kagan stared and nodded again. If this is true, it is possible. He still has a lot of skills, Hu Cheng shouted. I found out that he will still hide his body, make people indefensible, and make people suddenly blind. What are these kung fu? Hu Kagan also practiced martial arts, but he had never heard of these evil gates. I do know. I thought he was a cultivator. Now it seems not. All his abilities come from a kind of yellow paper. I found that he would go to a paper and pen store to buy a lot of yellow paper. After hearing my father say this, Hukagin was surprised. Dad, you are investigating him. You know that he is difficult to deal with, and investigating him. To be known by him, it is worse than I offend him. Hu Changshao touched the official hat in his hand and sighed, Daddy can't help it. The emperor's order, the old man can't resist the disobedience. In short, I have a bad feeling. You can play back for 2 days or come back soon. Andu, after Hu Changshao said, put the official hat on his head with white hair and pulled up his son, let us go and apologize to him. Master 8, oh, I have been here so many times. I finally saw Master 8, your old man is driving. It really is personable, a talented person. Hu Changshao greeted Ye as soon as he saw Ye Kong. These remarks were heard by the 9 wife present. How old is this kid? Why do you call him your old man? Yes, Cai is like this, and the city guards nodded and bowed to him like this, and he is also very personable. This is a half-sized man. Does he know what a thing is called grace? But MRS9 quickly knew what was grace, arrogance. It is said that people are so affectionate and so old. They are still city guards. They voluntarily say hello to you. It's enough to save face. How can you get back to face? But Ye Kong didn't, his eyes rolled. Who are you? I don't know you. Ye Kong Duo was savvy. When he saw Hukage behind, he knew what was going on, but he didn't give this face, because Hukagin actually stared at him just now. Boy, stare, right, you have no sincerity to come to apologize, even if you do come, you have to be apologetic, it's not over. Ye Kong's remarkless face, Hu Changshao said that he was embarrassed, and looked back at MRS9, thinking that you are his elder, and let me tell you something good. MRS9's eyes did not answer at all, and she hurriedly looked out of the door. In my heart, I can't help. This plague is too late to hide. I won't do anything to set the fire on fire. MRS9 pretended not to see it. Hukagin was young and energetic. He watched Lao Tzu eat a meal and was angry. He stepped forward and said, Ye Kong, this is my father, the southern capital is the city guard. Ye Kong watched him apologize, but he was so horizontal, and he didn't look well. Yo, drink, I ate it yesterday. Is it tempting to take your father to the door today? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 90. Chapter 89. When Hukagin heard the sentence, he was about to vomit blood. Lead your father is the one who pulled it out. You. Hukagin furiously pointed at Ye Kong. He was so angry that Lao Tzu had already suffered a loss. He even came to apologize. Scold my dad in person, I fight with you. K kicked up behind his back, little beast, so presumptuous, give me a kneel. Hukagin was kicked behind his knees, but he was just a cricket and did not kneel. Kneel? Hukagin said, I heard right? Apologize and forget about it, use your knees to give this teenage boy. Dad, but when Hukagin turned back, he saw the old man's fierce but pleading look. Hukagin swallowed his throat and said nothing. He bit his teeth and knelt down. The man knelt down, but his chest seemed to burst open, and a strong sense of humiliation swept through his body. Boy! Someday I will let you pay it back. 10 times 100 times repayment. Hukagin knelt down, Hu Changshao took off his hat, bowed respectfully to Ye Kong, and said, Xiaoguan's small animal is unbridled and arrogant, and offended 8 masters yesterday. He came here today, come and apologize and ask Master 8 to punish him. This time, I was surprised by MRS Ju, who was standing still, who was not talking. Although the officer was not big, he was not too young, so that his son would kneel on him. MRS9 did not believe her eyes. But then, MRS9 had a relaxed feeling again. Alas, God of Plague is God of Plague. I used to think that my wife was bearing the burden of humiliation. Now it seems that people are called bearing the load of humiliation. It's just that the sacred and fancy city guards have to take such a stance towards him. What else can I do with him as a woman? Seeing this scene, MRS9 turned right, and never dared to offend Yekong and Chen Juniang. Seeing Hu Changshao getting on the road, Yekong was a little embarrassed, and he hugged Hu Changshao and said, "Master Hu is exempt, in fact, I am still very generous, and I don't want to worry about juniors." Hu Kagan's heart is dead. Shit, are you called Dadu? How old is Laozi than you? You is a junior. Hu Changshao is a standard smiling tiger. He can stand everything and say anything. He laughed at the moment. "Master 8, if you don't dislike it, you and I will be brothers. If your husband is too old, I will be my brother. This son is very bad-tempered. In the future, you uncle must teach you more. Well, you should fight, you should scold. Got it?" This time really became a junior. Hu Kagan's eyes were dark. My God. Dad, I can be a little king in the future. Even the nine wife who had been mentally prepared was fainted. First, she was ashamed of Yekong's strength, and she really deserved the name of God of Plague. Second, she was ashamed of Hu Changshao. This person is so shameless. The so-called shameless person is invincible. Yekong really can't pick up any reason, even if Hu Kagan no longer accepts the expression, "Your uncle is also embarrassed to care about juniors." That being the case, then the nephew will get up. People said so. Yekong was also embarrassed to care about it, called Hu Kagan, and said in an elder tone, "In fact, I didn't want to care about you, really it's because you re too stupid. When you get to someone else's place, you have to pretend to be a grandson, see who is covering this place, and see if this person can afford it. If you don't know anything about it, you are playing with mighty power, you say, are you stupid? I learned that you are doing it for you, for fear of shame on your father." Hu Kagan knelt on his knees, and let Yekong say a few words, and naturally he could stand it. He actually nodded and said, "That's true, I won't do it in the future." Hu Kagan confessed wrongly on his mouth, but thought in his heart, "Yes, you are right, now this place is covered by you, I will lower my grandson, and wait until this place is not covered by you, you call my grandpa useless. That being the case, let's forget about it, I won't give it away, you can just walk slowly." Yekong directly ordered a guest. "Excuse me." Xiaoguan leaves. Hu Changshao saluted Yekong again before taking his son out. Yekong's exhortation also sounded behind him, "Nian Xian, don't forget to eat pig brain, it's very tonic." Even MRS9 couldn't help laughing, and the boy wasn't embarrassing at all. She covered her mouth and wanted to leave, but was stopped by Yekong again. "MRS9, there is something, I want to discuss it with you." Yekong was very kind, but he was kind. MRS9 was a little uncomfortable with his politeness, and she was still wondering why she wanted to ask her to come. "Master 8, a little red is not enough, but still have the idea of Xiaowan in my house?" asked MRS9. Yekong wanted to say that he was helping Lu Changqing, but if he said that, it might make people know that the two had long been in private. The Ye family had strict military regulations and the soldiers fell in love. I am redeeming Xiaowan, not closing the house." Yekong had no choice but to be vague. MRS Ju laughed, "Then you are better with Xiaowan than with Xiaohong, have you been in contact for a long time?" Yekong fainted, "Wouldn't Laozi and that maid be innocent?" However, it is estimated that he said that MRS9 would not believe it, and Yekong could only hold the on his head, and of course, he did not care about gossip. "MRS9, please also raise your expensive hand, It doesn't matter how much you need to pay for your life. Yekong also did not deny it. With the scene just now, MRS9 is eternally unforgettable. Where can you dare to return to the plague and smile? Oh, Master 8 is stingy when it comes to silver, isn't it just a little one? I will take the mercy right away. It's all family, what's so hard to discuss? MRS9 is refreshing, and Yekong is also refreshing. Then thank MRS9, and I need help later, just call me. Then MRS9 called for Xiaojuan's selling contract, and Xiaowan followed. MRS9 in front of Yekong told her to cherish the love of the 8th master and serve the young master. Yekong was flushed, and Xiaowan hurried away. When he went out, he found that Lu Changqing was waiting outside. Even though Yekong was over, Lu Changqing happily took Xiaowan to buy a house for a foregone conclusion. Basically, when things are done, Yekong is ready to practice in the city. Returning to his own courtyard, although Chen Juniang and the two girls were reluctant, they also knew that they could not delay Yekong's cultivation, but it was also an admonition. Yekong then left Yefu safely. Yekong rode a horse to buy some corn seeds and headed south from the city. Boy, where are you going to cultivate? It's better to be a little more remote, safer, and more aura full of energy, Huang Quan ancestor asked. Hey, don't worry about these, my dear, I naturally have plans, you can just follow me. Yekong had already thought about it, so it was nice to go to the place where Fanjiji took himself last time. Remote, desolate, and seemingly no danger. Fanjiji could kill and overrun there, indicating that he had detected no special circumstances around him. Soon, one person and one rode out of the official road, and then stepped onto the grassland and entered the mangrove forest. This is not a short road. It took me a few hours to go last time, so it was dark when Yekong was about to arrive. This place, is it my ancestor that I was chased by the Shadow Clan and caught the hiding place of the monk? Although the environment has been changed for 100,000 years, but the 100,000 mountains in the distance have not been moved, Huang Quan's ancestors looked more and more like. Yekong thought, yes, Fanju Snake got small swords and other items here, indicating that Huang Quan's ancestor's body died here. Yes, ancestor, you have lived for 100,000 years. This time, I will take you back to visit the place. What emotions do you have to send? Yekong asked. Huang Quan's ancestor yelled, just that place, if my ancestor I drove a magic weapon at that time, I would be there in a blink of an eye. You have been doing that for so long, it is really a waste of time. Yekong reluctantly said, hey, my ancestor, don't you stand and talk without back pain, okay? Where is my flying weapon? If I have it, I would like to fly through the clouds, but I don't have one now. Yekong said again and asked, does this small sword weapon have the function of flying? Last time I saw Wan Suanzhen's flying sword, I could fly on it. Garbage can also fly, Huang Quan ancestor said, many of the weapons have added the function of flying, especially the flying sword, but adding the flying function will reduce some of the power of the weapon. So many people would rather fly. The sword does not have the function of flying, so this part of the energy must be put on the attack, and this is the small sword weapon. Then I will find another flying weapon in the future. Yekong pinched the horse's belly in frustration and urged the horse to leave, but then he came back again. So, this small sword weapon is very attacking. Strong. Junk artifact, how can this Chinese-made artifact be strong? If it was then, who would send an artifact like my ancestor? I must his face, in Huang Quan's mouth there is no good thing. Whatever it was then, it sounds really boring. I said, ancestor, don't you mention the bravery back then, okay? Who would send me some of these instruments now? I wouldn't laugh. No ambition. Yekong sighed, no way. Who calls us poor? It's really extravagant to talk about the spirit with the poor. Huang Quan's ancestor sent a scornful smirk, and then said, where is this little sword weapon? Although it looks like a garbage in my eyes, but for you, this is still a good magic weapon. It can be said that it is in the forefront of the same type and grade. Yekong heard it, and was very happy. This was originally a Chinese grade instrument. If it is the strongest of the Chinese grade instrument, it is already very good. I heard that many Xianxian are still using the low-grade instrument. That is really poor. However, Yekong had time to be happy, so he listened to Huang Quan's ancestor, saying, even if it's a good instrument, it's better to use people. Generally speaking, after the foundation is built, it is best to reach the middle of the foundation construction before the power of the magical instruments has reached its limit, so that the same magical instruments are in the hands of different people, and the powers are quite different. Then how much can I play now? Yekong asked. 20%. Huang Quan's ancestors ruthlessly hit Yekong. Only 20%, Yekong said annoyed. No matter how powerful this instrument is, what can it do if only 20% is used? Huang Quan's ancestor laughed, boy, otherwise all the monks are trying hard to practice. The artifact is used in the ancient times for the monks in the foundation period. Only because there are too many monks in the gas refining period, they modify the instrument. Refining method, so that monks during the refining period can also use it. You only refine the third layer of gas. How much power do you want to exert? Even if you practice the 5 elements ascension, the spiritual knowledge is far better than others. The swordsmanship has only 30% of its power, so you still have to cultivate more, and you will have a day of hard work. The two talked, time passed by unconsciously, and when the moon had hovered overhead, the destination finally arrived. When Yekongzima walked into the open space in the forest, the sight in front of him stopped him. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 91. Chapter 90. The Little Monk. Why is there so much Nepenthes in this place? Huang Quan's ancestors didn't know the fierce fighting that had happened here. Yekong didn't expect that this pitcher plant had such a strong vitality. For more than half a year, the open space was covered with square vine-shaped prison cages. In the moonlight, each of the erected cages pulled out a black shadow, which looked like a standing coffin, feeling a little weird. How is this place? Yekong jumped off the horse and looked at this pitcher plant. This place is good. Although the pitcher plants are all low-grade spirit grasses, they can provide a lot of wood-based auras in such a large amount. In any case, they are more abundant than those in Yefu. Huang Quan's ancestor nodded. Said. Yekong laughed, more importantly, these pitcher plants can still be used as houses. It is important to have a place to stay here for a few months. Yes, you can also pick some seeds of Nepenthes, and maybe there will be some magical effects on the enemy later. Huang Quan's ancestors don't have to be afraid to find out, and flew out of the small sword weapon. Where is that cellar? Huang Quan's ancestor flew around the cage and sighed. This year was a small village and there were many people. I just killed an alien monk and flew here. So I quietly drilled into a cellar of a family. It was unexpectedly 100,000 years ago, and it turned into a desolation. Over the past 100,000 years, the sea is changing, the mountains and rivers can change direction, not to mention a small village. Yekong answered, while using a small sword to dig out a vine-made prison cage for people. Small door in and out. Yeching, Yekong created a simple room, but Huang Quan's ancestors did not give up, and he was busy looking for the cellar where he had lived. Don't look for it, how can you find it? Your original body, I am afraid that it may not have all the bones, but first help me to make Pai Gu Dan. Yekong took out the bran grain fruit from the storage bag. Huang Quan's ancestors didn't follow it. He even waved his arms and smashed the stones on the ruins of the small pavilion in the middle of the open space. He still couldn't find the entrance to the cellar. Where is it? Huang Quan ancestor asked angrily. I said, why do you have to hurry to find that cellar? Do you have any treasures hidden here? Yekong asked, puzzled. He does not mean that. Huang Quan's face changed, but then he laughed. How can there be any treasure worthy of my ancestors to find this way? I just want to see the place where I was sitting, and I'm just feeling a little bit. Then give me alchemy. Well, I can't think of my ancestor. I lived for 100,000 years, and finally I became a slave of your hairy boy, and I also specially cultivated like Gudan. It's really a secret pearl. Huang Quan's ancestor shook his head with a sad smile. Fly back. The pitcher plant is very narrow inside, which is a square area. 2 people can be squeezed, but Huang Quan's ancestors are not willing to open one. Anyway, there are many cages, and Yekong doesn't care about him. Began to cultivate himself. The first thing to do is, of course, to refine the top quality defense made of inkwell leather. With this gadget, safety is guaranteed. A few days later, Yekong stepped out of a prison cage and was so proud of his breeze that at one glance he had successfully refined the armor. He was shirtless and could barely see that he was wearing clothes. The armor had been hidden into his body. Old man, do you say that this armor is as effective as you said? You can't see it, you can't touch it, and there is no glittering light. Yekong was happy, but he was a little skeptical. You know, a fart. Huang Quan, who was still wandering among the cages, cursed, throwing a fireball at him with a shake of his hand, and said coldly, "Don't hide." Yekong knew that he would not harm himself, and the power of fireball was limited, so he stood and allowed the fireball to hit his chest. Boom! When the fireball stuck to his body, he saw the black-gray armor immediately appeared, resisted the small fireball. The fireball exploded into a gorgeous Mars and disappeared, but Yekong was intact, and the armor turned into the body again. Yekong happy wiped his chest, and smiled. Hey, it really works, huh, it really is a good thing. Ancestor, come a few more. Do NT play, quickly practice expulsion, practice fireball, ice bomb, and practice all those spells. Do NT underestimate those low-level spells. It can improve your ability to various attributes. Force control. Oh, I see. The sun rises and the moon sets, winter goes to spring. One day 3 months later, the sun was shining and spring was in full bloom. The sun was lazy after hiding in the white clouds. The weather said goodbye to the cold, but not hot. The mangrove forest experienced a winter, and took off the red-brown coat, and grew bright red branches like fire. It looks good. There was a sound of wind breaking above the mangrove forest, and saw a monk carrying his hands on his back, calmly standing on a beast-bone weapon slowly flying. This is a young monk wearing a green indigo coarse cloth. His clothes are not the long shirts that the people of southern capital love to wear, but are similar to the shorts that barbarians like, except that a black storage bag is hung on the waist. Although this young barbarian monk moves leisurely and is flying slowly, this is not because he wants to admire the view of the mangrove forest. It is because his flying instruments are too rubbish. Such a fast speed is the limit. The barbarian monk stepped on a bone flying instrument and flew in the air, leaving the wind to fan his straight trousers. He seems to be leisurely, but he is looking around, not looking at the scenery, but looking around with great vigilance. After all, he is only a low-level monk, and anyone can pinch him. He doesn't want to mess with those great monks. Keep away, otherwise you don't know how to die. Fortunately, no monks or spirit beasts were encountered along the way. It was very safe, but he did not relax his vigilance. Hey, what's going on over there? One by one the small square cages are strange trees. The little monk's eyes fell on a clearing in the middle of the mangrove forest. Go and see. The barbarian monk changed his direction and flew slowly. When he approached, he was surprised to find that there was an aura fluctuation. Xiaopin low-order spiritual wood. The barbarian monk was happy for a while and accelerated to fly over. Although he didn't understand what this plant was and what its usefulness was, as long as it was a spiritual grass, it would be useful. Pick some seeds or fruits. Maybe it was a rare and precious spiritual tree. I don't know what kind of plants or trees, but they have such a strange shape. Just pick some, and soon they can change some spirits in Fang City. The barbarian monk descended happily, raised his hand, and made the skull of the beast. The flying instrument was put in the storage bag. He is a young monk of the barbarian's Ecchi martial arts. This martial art is very small and very poor. A little monk like him is even poorer. I heard that there is a square city near Honghuang and I want to see the market. He also just went to the market. There was really nothing extra to exchange, and there was no lingxi. I thought that this time I went back empty-handed, but I didn't expect to pick some strange grass on the way. Good luck this time, said the young monk, happily, looking for the seed of the pitcher plant. At this moment, Yekong was talking to Huang Quan's ancestors. After 3 months of practice, he has fully mastered the use of small swords, and even all kinds of spells are very skilled, and he is preparing to return to the city. Trip. But Huang Quan's ancestors scolded him again, you restless guy, don't think I don't know what you think. Yekongki said, in 3 months, I went back to visit my wife and appease my wife. What's wrong with this? Huang Quan ancestor said, you want to go back and say goodbye to them, and then go out for a walk, am I right? Yekong was guessed by Huang Quan's ancestors, and he laughed without denying it. He said, yeah, you see that I now have the ability to protect myself, I should go out and take a break, and let my mother find it by the way. You can go through the elixir for face treatment, look at the local customs, and maybe have any chance. Come on, Huang Quan's ancestor angered. Yes, your boy is really strong in spirit and consciousness. The third layer of refining gas can actually make the sword use 40% of his power. This is something I didn't expect from my ancestor. But don't think that you are already very powerful, your wings are hard, and you can go out to fly, tell you, you are still early. Just such a small ant, you will be pinched to death in minutes. It is not you who repairs the fairyland. Imagination is full of tenderness. Everywhere is full of danger, and if you are not careful, you will never lose it. Why kill a man and win a treasure, but I have no treasure to win, Yekong shouted. Your sword and armor are enough to make you kill you. Will I not take it out? The immortal does not need a reason to kill. It seems that you are in a bad mood one day, and you step on a few ants, and those senior monks kill individuals just like pinching an ant. Are you still there? Huang Quan's ancestor fainted. You originally counted my ancestors again, I'll tell you what's wrong with you. I will never help you. As an ancestor, am I still in full prosperity? Yekong laughed, I won't help you then. Huang Quan's ancestor said, what's wrong with me? Find that seller for treasures. Huang Quan's ancestor was depressed, how did you know? Yekong was even more depressed than he was. I said, ancestor, in the past 3 months, you have overturned the entire ground. I don't know anymore. Are you stupid? Huang Quan's ancestor Chan Chan smiled and did not deny it. Yekong asked again, Father, tell me, what treasures can make a great monk like you remember? It doesn't matter to you, it's useless to you. Huang Quan's ancestors dodged and didn't answer. Then tell me what's that, what's the name of the head office? Yekong couldn't help it. Tell you. I don't know. Seeing Yekong's face unbelieving, Huang Quan's ancestor said again, I only know that it's a baby, but I don't know what it's useful for, at least it has a use, letting my soul be small. The sword has not died for 100,000 years. Oh, this is very useful, Yekong nodded. Otherwise, if you think you are a baby's, you can sleep for 100,000 years without dying if you drill into the weapon, Huang Quan's ancestors said impatiently, and said, I said, you don't have to make up your mind. Take it out at that time. It's just for you. If you want to swallow, don't blame my ancestor for turning his face. Yekong angrily said, how can I do that kind of thing? Please don't insult my personality. We are friends, do you know? Love is better than Jinjian, love is everlasting, and what treasure is comparable to our purity and noble friendship? So I will never swallow it, so rest assured. Huang Quan's ancestors were relieved and asked, say, you know where the cellar is? Yekong laughed, tell you it's okay, but conditionally, if you find any benefit in that thing later, you have to count it as me. Huang Quan's ancestor glared at him for a long time before he said, I now finally understand that the word shameless was written like this. Hey, I said I won't corrupt your treasure, am I shameless? But you are extortion. Yekong Rogue said, are you promised or not? Huang Quan's ancestor was about to speak, and suddenly raised a brow, and laughed, there is a monk on the 6th floor of gas refining, you are in trouble. I'm a bit sleepy, I'm going to bed, if you can't beat me, ask me to help. But if you can, tell me where the cellar is, friend, treasure. After Huang Quan's ancestors finished speaking, his body became smaller and smaller, and he got into the small sword weapon. Hey, don't run, you shameless old guy, leave your friends and run away, count me as Yekong seeing the wrong person. Huang Quan's ancestor laughed and said, what you say is useless, haha, 3 levels higher than you. You rookie who has no actual combat experience, be careful.